This conference will now be recorded.
That way,
We're live.
skip to that table that way. We can fit everybody up and around.
There's some agendas. Okay. The first item we have on the agenda this evening is under Dean Dietrich's direction. Kate Long and Kate Johnson, Kate and Kate. This is an administrative work session, and I believe the topic that you're going to be discussing is work that the Cornell Institute and interns have been studying for a while regarding government efficiency and communications. So, Dean, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for putting us on the agenda, particularly for putting us at the top of the agenda here so that our guests do not have to, can do their thing and move on. So we appreciate your allowing us to do that. I'm not going to go into a lot of introduction because I believe you're pretty much aware of what the Development Commission does. You know, Art Devlin has been a wonderful liaison, and I believe you are aware that one of our missions is to improve the quality of life, and in part of doing that, the comprehensive plan calls for motions toward transparency in government, and Kate will talk about that in a little bit greater detail. We have hooked up with Cornell Institute of Public Affairs a number of years. This is actually Kate's second go-round with Lake Placid. She was a member of the group that helped us develop a program for public art, the Art Advocacy Group, and she liked that so much she came back, and actually she did this on her own. She just went to Professor Morgan and said, or Brenner, and said, I want to work with Lake Placid again, and what can we do? And the Development Commission suggested she work in this project. So Kate is a lover of Lake Placid. She's done a lot of good things for us, and here's another good thing she did. I'll just turn it right over to her. So Kate, go ahead.
Great, thank you so much, Dean, and thank you all for letting me speak today. I'm gonna share my presentation with you. Let's see if I can get it to work. Hopefully. Yes. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So yeah, thank you to Dean for the wonderful introduction. Like Dean said, I actually just graduated with my Master in Public Administration, and I was able to work with Dean and the rest of the Development Commission on this report. And we focused it on government communication, effectiveness, transparency, and information technologies in government in both Lake Placid and North Elba. So to kind of start off, I'll go through my research plan on what I did for this project. I started with a literature review. I came up to Lake Placid in January and interviewed some government officials in both the town and the village. Then I conducted a survey of residents in March and April, and then I did some data analysis and developed some recommendations. So like Dean said, this is all based out of the 2014 comprehensive plan that was put together. There was a subcommittee on government structure and function that identified goals to improve operation and of the government in optimizing efficiency. And then the eighth objective of that goal was to enhance efficiency, transparency, and access to municipal information and records. So just overall objectives to increase transparency in government. And that's where this report started off, looking at transparency and efficiency in government. So my research, I focused on topics of participatory government. So how do citizens participate in government? Citizen engagement. So how does the government interact with citizens? And then I also looked at social media and websites, specifically how municipalities can leverage them. And then I also looked at public meetings and video accessibility in relation to how municipalities can really make public meetings more accessible on video. As we're seeing now, this is really like a hot topic. So some key concepts that came out of my literature review was that good governance is rooted in transparency, it's rooted in accountability and public participation. Additionally, engagement, it's becoming increasingly effective due to the rise in communication technologies like social media, access to cell phones and the internet. And additionally, that two-way communication, so communication that flows out of the government to the public and from the public into the government, it really helps build public trust and has a lot of positive impacts on citizen satisfaction. So going forward from my literature review, like I said, I came up into Lake Placid. I talked with some of you guys that are in the room today, and I conducted some interviews. And so the main takeaways from those interviews that kind of framed the survey and the recommendations going forward was that I heard there were some concerns about community outreach and the internet connectivity, particularly if all the information and all the communication from the government transfers to online. Additionally, I learned that there was a variation in the platforms used across departments across the town and across the village that were used to communicate with the public, and that this variation really causes a disconnect within the public. They're not so sure where they get their information. And additionally, I heard that there was a large desire for more increased coordination and connection between the town and village and their communication styles. So going forward from these interviews, I developed a survey. I used the Qualtrics survey system online, pretty similar to SurveyMonkey or Google Forms. I published that in March and left it up through April, so just about a month. I was able to receive 44 responses, which I thought was really positive. So 19 of them lived in Lake Placid, 14 in North Elba, and 5 said that they lived others. So maybe they were seasonal or, just had an affinity for Lake Placid or lived in the area. Demographically, pretty similar to what you see across the board, 40 to 60 age range, 61 and up were the largest participants. Additionally, 87% of the respondents that I got, so 33 of them, were full-time residents of the area. So next I'm going to go into some key takeaways from that survey. So more than half of the respondents rarely or never contacted the town or village council in the past 12 months. And 46% of those respondents that did contact the town or village made contact in person. So I thought this was really important to kind of move forward with these recommendations. Additionally, most people gather their information from local print media sources and the Facebook pages. I thought that was also really surprising. Additionally, I found that 40% of the respondents disagreed that the town and village welcomed citizen involvement. Additionally, 39% of respondents disagreed that the town and village listened to their citizens, and 37% of the respondents did not feel well informed about village operations. However, I did find that 53% of the respondents felt informed about the government meetings within the town and village, but only 23% of respondents felt informed about the decisions that were being made. Additionally, I found that 60% of respondents would likely watch a live video stream of a town or village meeting, and that 53% of respondents would watch a video recording of a public meeting. Additionally, kind of overall, I found that only 17% of the survey respondents felt satisfied with the communications that were coming out of the town and village, and no respondents indicated that they were extremely satisfied with the communications from the town or village. Additionally, I found that 40% of respondents disagreed to a statement that said that the town and village are dedicated to communicating openly and honestly with their citizens. So from these results, I went and I made some recommendations for you all that I'd like to share. The first recommendation, I think that the town and village can really have a strong user-focused website design. So what this means is essentially it can be done in a couple different ways. First, responsive website design is really key. So this can be things like making sure that the website transitions really smoothly from being viewed on a computer to being viewed on a laptop to being viewed on a tablet and a cell phone, and making sure that that's really smooth, because I found that more people are likely to visit municipal websites on their cell phone than on a desktop computer. Additionally, on the websites, images and white space really need to be optimized, and thoughtful images to really help make the website look clear and thoughtful and just look nice and more modern for users. Additionally, the interface should be really clean and simple, and menus and navigation systems should be used. So the most common navigation system on a website is a series of tabs, usually across the top or on the left side of the page, that are consistent throughout each page on the website to really make navigation between pages easy. Additionally, information architecture should be used. So this is really a concept where information, it's like how information is displayed and organized in order to optimize the use of the website for the end user. So thinking about who's using the website, why they're using the website, what they're coming to the website for, and what information they need to get, and thinking through that in every element of the design. So this can include maybe a sitemap and making sure that you have links and tags throughout the website so that when searching on Google or whichever service you use to search, pages pop up and makes it really easy to navigate. Additionally, the website should be updated regularly, consistently, and the website should have language change capabilities so that they're able to be translated into different languages. Next, the social media should be consistent. So there should be similar branding and messaging throughout the town and village and across all departments. This can be done through similar tone, voice, using consistent hashtags or even emojis to really build that brand on social media. Additionally, I think that Facebook should be prioritized compared to other social medias, and Facebook can also be a really excellent way to engage with the seasonal and visiting populations that come to Lake Placid and North Elba. Next, I think that email distribution and physical mailers can be really beneficial for the town and village. So government marketing emails can be really successful if they use like a strong modern interface and that responsive design so that they're able to be viewed on cell phones. People check their emails on their cell phones more than on the computer, and that can be really beneficial to you guys if you use that sort of format. Additionally, the inverted pyramid format that you often see in news where the most information is at the top can help flow people down so you really get that full scroll on that email. Additionally, emails can be used to help solicit citizen feedback. You can link a survey right in an email that you send to all the residents and really help build that citizen and public engagement. Additionally, consistent newsletters, so if it's bi-weekly or monthly, can be used in conjunction with the municipal websites to help push content into the community directly. Additionally, you can use mass distribution emails, which would be sent out if there are emergency updates or breaking news or important notifications that need to be put out into the city. Additionally, a physical mailer can be beneficial, especially since I heard that there's difficulties with internet connectivity and equity in internet access. So you could send a physical mailer in maybe a municipal bill or something that's already being sent out into the community to help reach those people who might not have access to email or the internet. Additionally, I think that virtual public meetings that include live streams can really be beneficial for the village and the town of North Elba. However, there are 3 major considerations that I wrote about in my report. First, how is the meeting going to be captured? Is it going to be used a cell phone, a separate video camera? And then once that's considered, then we're going to have to consider where is the meeting going to be posted? Is it going to be put on the website? Is it going to be a Facebook Live? Is it going to be hosted on a third-party site? And then what does that look like for you all? And then additionally, the website or the videos need to be encoded. There needs to be security concerns. There needs to be it needs to be digitized. It needs to be formatted so that the video is high quality. So those are things that really need to be considered. I found there's a lot of specific companies that work solely on doing public meetings virtually for municipalities, but that was outside the scope of my report. So hopefully moving forward, that's something that can be considered and those companies can be looked at further. Additionally, I made recommendations for the village on how to bolster public engagement. So this can be done in a bunch of different ways. So first, I think that more informal communications can be really beneficial. This can help increase public trust and that can be in the surveys was received really positively, having those informal meetings and access to you all, honestly. And also, welcoming citizen involvement in new ways can be really beneficial additionally. So that can be done through increasing transparency, through just having it really easy to access documents and public information. You can have open public meetings, specific meetings dedicated to different projects and initiatives outside of the normal meeting schedule. Additionally, you can have those government-focused newsletters that I mentioned. You can have citizen feedback surveys. And then you can also garner citizen feedback in different ways. So you can use focus groups, small group discussions. Open City Hall project is really cool that I wrote about in my report. You can use social media, and you can also use large-scale deliberative processes, and those can be things like having a community vision that receives a lot of input from residents, or using citizens in comprehensive planning can be really beneficial to you guys to really bolster that public engagement with the residents in the area. And then next, just kind of conclusion, I wrote this in my report, but just all aspects of communication and municipal decision making, transparency and citizen engagement concerns, they must be answered to improve the overall satisfaction of government service delivery. And coming from Dean, just the next steps for you all would be to accept the report and then consider which, if any, of the recommendations you'd like to implement, and then decide how best works for you all to implement those recommendations and to see where you want to go in the future in terms of communication. And then that's all I have for you all. I'd love to take some questions or comments. I also have an appendix on my deck with all the graphs. If you want to look at those, they're also all in my report that I believe has already been published on the futurelakeplacid.com website, as well as an executive summary if you're short on time. So thank you so much. I'll take questions or comments if anyone has any. If not, just thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Any questions from anyone? If not,
I guess one question, you said we could have open meetings and open workshops. With the Taylor law, we can't have anything but open meetings. Up until maybe the last 6-8 months, we get nobody at a board meeting. I mean, they're advertising in the paper. What more should we do to drag people in here to listen to our meetings?
We could be more interesting.
We have an agenda. It's not the most exciting. What do we? I mean, everyone says that they want open government. What have we done wrong, really?
I wouldn't say that you've done anything wrong. I think that starting with, I know when I was up in January, there was the meetings focused on like the Airbnb situation, and people get really excited about specific initiatives. So if you have a meeting focused on a specific initiative, can really be a good way to bring people in and get them excited in local government if they find one thing that they're really passionate and excited about. And then moving forward, maybe they decide to come to more and more meetings because they enjoy that process of speaking with their officials. So considering having those like smaller meetings based on specific initiatives can be a really good way to kind of get people more involved as a good start.
So you're saying not to be so thorough in your explanations, like say the mayor is very, very thorough in his explanations.
I mean, people like when you're thorough, but I think that people also have short attention spans. So you have to kind of consider what people are gonna want to listen to.
Yes.
And I would interject here that Kate's report is not the end. It's not a product of things we should do. It's basically a starting line. So the issue is, she's basically outlining the issue. How can we get more citizens involved into the meetings? Okay, and then we will sit down and talk about that, which would include things like streaming them. I think you've had many more people attend your meetings through streaming than ever attended them in other ways. And there are things that Development Commission can do, informational meetings about different things that don't impact the open meetings law. And the idea of Kate's report says, okay, that you can do these things to help that. And a lot of that is very low hanging fruit. I'm looking at, I watched you guys rearrange the desks so that you could have better access to technology, and just rearranging that room doesn't cost a lot of money, but that could help establish streaming, so you get a camera that can get everybody and get the information. So there's some low hanging fruit there. And so Kate's report is asking for us to look at least 4 areas of government communication, including the streaming and the website and the text alerts and informational meetings. And I'll have to look back at the report to check those out. And the Development Commission is poised to do just that. So I would think, I don't want to keep a lot of your time, and if you don't feel comfortable accepting the report now, if you want to take a little longer look at it and read the whole thing at futurelakeplacid.com, you can. But I would hope that at this point in time, you could at least accept the report, or at least consider accepting the report from Kate, and maybe even determining if you want to move forward. Do you want a group of people to start working on the recommendations that Kate has outlined? So I'll leave that question first. So I'll leave it to the mayor if what you think about that, Mr. Mayor.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Kate and Dean for taking the time to deliver this presentation today. Some of the material and some of your 5 recommendations are, it's interesting to me. The very first one, website design, and I'll share this with everyone in the room. The representative Politi from the town council was in my office last week, or maybe it was Monday. I tend to forget which week it is. And the topic there was talking about the possibility of collaboration on a web design that would address some of the points that Kate outlined. So I would predict that will go forward. We may have some discussions, Dean, as to how the Development Commission resources might be used. Social media consistency, I think that's something, again, trying to get the adherence of the 2 governments to where people recognize us. Really, although we're 2 separate governing bodies, we're really one community. And I think that will come about if we can gain some consistency with the media that we do use, including the website. Email distribution and markers, it's interesting. I had some discussions with former Supervisor Politi probably over a year ago, probably after a bad storm in the county. And we were talking about the fact that it would be very advantageous to be able to push information out to all of our constituents using email distribution and stuff like that. At the time, it was thought that the county itself was developing a countywide system. Haven't heard any more about it, so it's something we will investigate further, just for information at this point. Virtual public meetings, it's only been, what, a year, maybe half a year that we've had technology here that's allowed us to live stream our meetings, and thank goodness that technology came on board, because coronavirus has made it a way of doing business that we, I think, I'll speak for the trustees, I think we've become more comfortable with it. And I predict that it will continue to be a mechanism for at least live streaming our public meetings for the benefit of the public.
It's forcing me to get more frequent haircuts.
Yes, haircuts are important. So bolstering public engagement, I think, Dean, that's a topic maybe you and I can have some discussions. Yes, I do think engaging the public in items of large public interest is a valuable resource. We certainly found that was true during the debates and the hearings that we held on vacation rentals. Sadly enough, the project that's nearest to my heart right at this point, which is the Main Street project, which has a lot in it, coronavirus kind of took that off the table temporarily. But there again, I'm hoping that we can create some sort of a media presentation on that project so that we can gain whatever feedback would be helpful from the community at large. So I think the bottom line is the village board certainly is appreciative of the direction. I'm looking forward to having a full copy of your report, Kate, to put into the records, and we will accept that report, I believe, at our board meeting, which is this coming Monday.
So on that note, as much as I visit futurelakeplacid.com, it's one of my favorite websites. Where the trustees email the report, or are we going to actually have to navigate there and download it?
The report, Kate, this is Kate's graduate report. It's fairly lengthy, so I did not print it out. You should have the executive summary. I believe I gave a copy of the executive summary to Anita. So you should have received the executive summary, but I didn't print out the report. You have to go to futurelakeplacid.com. Yes.
That's the draw then, huh?
We can mail it to them, right, though, Dean? We can mail the PDF of the report to them, right?
I'll mail a PDF of it. I can send you. Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm still old fashioned. I'm thinking we got to print it out and give it to him, but no.
Oh, I didn't want to. Let's save a tree. I'm just
I
thinking.
can certainly send you a PDF. I will do that.
If you want to streamline it, if you'd send that PDF to our village clerk attention, she'll get it out to all of the board members. I think that would be helpful. It also puts it into her record as an official document.
Excellent. And again, you have time to think about it, but one of the things is if you want to move forward, we did this presentation to the town board. I mean, you guys, we have to go with who gets scheduled first, and the town board did direct the development commission to move forward. It does not mean it has to be the same group of people or it needs to be under the direction of the development commission. But the next decision is whether you want to move forward. And I would say that you can make that decision without committing any cash. You can say, do what you can do to improve things. For instance, just putting, there's no word search available on the websites now. So just saying, if you have a question of when the beach is open, or you have a question of when the toboggan run is running, you've got to scroll through. You got to get to the North Elba Park District after you get, and you don't even know what the parks are. How would people know that parks are under the highway department in the village? You have to work your way through a bunch of things or different menus before you finally find out that the beach is open or the toboggan run is going or there are restrictions on the park. So just putting a searchable feature on the website would add a great deal. And I'm told, I don't know, I've been waiting to introduce, I should say, Kathleen Thompson. She's been part of this report, and she did a lot of this website design, user-friendly design for AT&T. So she's a new resident with longtime ties. And I'm just going to leave that riddle out there. But Kathleen has been helping out, and I'm sure she would be one who the development commission would be in a leadership role if we move forward. If you want to put some people on that group and the town put some people on the group, or you want us to move forward with our own group of people, we would do that. Certainly would not do anything without your authorization. I will say the town is based on this report and just the discussions of the report, the town has already made a few changes to their website. So some things have already happened as a result of this.
Again, I would predict that the town and village will probably collaborate in terms of future website design activities. So we can discuss that and how the development commission and perhaps Kate Thompson's skills I'm aware of will help move this forward. Certainly, the one thing we do want as trustees of the village is for information to get out in public in as broad a manner as possible. I'm reminded that when I came here as mayor, we didn't even have a Facebook page. We didn't have a Twitter page. We did not have a website, all of that. And yet we were painfully aware of the fact that it needs to mature from where it is.
Yeah. And all of that is a tribute to your staff, Mr. Mayor, because they've all done that. And in this report in no way denigrates what they did. And of course, any group that moves forward would have to be closely connected with Anita and Chelsea, and I think it's Britt is the other one, and Lori probably are the three people that do a lot of the work on the websites and the Facebook. So we would certainly work very closely with them, and the whole goal would be to make their job easier, not make it harder.
Okay, well, as I said, we will put this report on the agenda and it will be accepted at our Monday board meeting when we can take an official act, and we're happy to do so. And again, appreciation, Dean, to you, to Kate Long, Kate Thompson, for your efforts and the time taken today.
And your future efforts of creating an email and attaching the report.
Now we're putting pressure on you.
I'm going to do that right now, Jason, so I don't forget.
Okay.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey.
The next item we need to, and we have visitors with us that need to participate in the conversation, is an update on the proposal to create Main Street or reimagine Main Street to incorporate some outdoor dining and outdoor retail sales activity along the street. In the way of update, I'll speak first to the village, then I'm going to ask Mary Jane to speak. We have been in touch with the Department of Transportation. The concept has been received with interest there. Based on that interest, I am working with Ivan and Creighton Manning, who have already largely mirrors what is needed if we close off the current northbound lane on Main Street and use that for a different purpose. At the same time, Mary Jane has reached out to the State Liquor Authority and has provided a very clear description of what the Liquor Authority recognizes. Apparently not the only ones in New York State that are after this. But, they're making it as easy as possible for dining facilities that have state liquor licenses to be able to do things a little bit differently outside of their property than what would be permitted right now today. So again, there's some forms that will need to be submitted to each of these agencies along with project descriptions. Mary Jane, do you want to add to that?
So Jim was on for a little bit, but he had to jump off. He's going to try and get back on shortly. He actually, there was a conversation in the control room about this State Liquor Authority and the process for obtaining that. There's a couple steps to actually getting the permission to have liquor outside your traditional license. So he should be back on shortly, and he can go over that. I wanted to make sure that everybody, we did send out that survey on behalf of the village, and I just wanted to make sure that all of everybody on the board received that and had a chance to look at it.
I believe that was emailed out to everybody over the weekend, so they do have it. And the survey mechanism you have, I believe you had about 400 responses, and about a 70. If I added this up right, probably about a 72% favorable response, which is encouraging, along with a number of other data comments from people. Some encouraging, some discouraging, of course. But overall, I thought this data is helpful to the board as it makes the decision to move this project forward.
Greg Borzilleri is also on the call. Greg, did you want to speak to any of this project, since you've kind of spearheaded it? We've just kind of been the.
Yeah, I appreciate the board allowing us to move forward with this. And this is, I think when you look at if you looked at the numbers, it's almost 3-to-1 for village residents in favor of the project. And when we surveyed the shopkeepers and the business people, that was almost 6-to-1 in favor of it. So it seems like it's got pretty significant support. And like the mayor says, the devil's in the details. But I think if we can get the village businesses take ownership and to make it a vibrant and exciting place to be, I think it's a win. With that being said, Mary Jane's doing a lot of work with the Liquor Authority, and the mayor's doing a lot of things with the DOT. So, and Billy Moore and Brad Hathaway are working on spacing and rocks and planters and loading zones and parking zones and all that stuff. So it seems like it's a good thing. I'd be happy to answer any more questions if anybody has anything that they haven't brought up in the last few months.
I would like Bill Moore to comment, because he has been working with you, and he has developed a sense of how this might lay out on the street. Not every business wants to be engaged in outdoor dining activity or perhaps outdoor retail. From the mayor's perspective, it's important that we maintain some of the curbside parking for service deliveries, product deliveries, ADA parking, crosswalks that we have to maintain. So those items are are part of what Bill has worked on with you, Greg, I think, to
Yep.
try to create the design.
So originally, Craig,
And I think, yeah, go ahead, Bill, but just as you know, as another point of interest, that Lori Fitzgerald went and did a survey of the parking spots that we would lose and the parking spots that we would retain, and it was, the number was around 28 spots that we would retain and 42 spots we would lose. So out of 70 spots, we would lose more than half, but there are obviously opportunities for loading zones, you know, and we can define the time frame of the loading zone however we wish, and handicap parking and drop off pickup, you know, you can do a 15-minute, 30-minute standing zone, whatever. And Brad's idea to turn around Elm Street or Hayes Road and make it go the other way was a brilliant idea, I thought, to help get some traffic off the street if the project goes through.
well, I haven't heard about that one, Greg.
Bill, do you want to add any comments?
But is it a permit parking by that Bell Street, isn't it?
Yeah, that's eligible. I don't know what it's talking about.
There's some issue, Greg, at the moment, whether Elm Street is in play or not, but we'll try to communicate. One thing that would be helpful now that this seems to be taking on some good direction is that I think we need to define the group that needs to work closely together to make sure that we've delivered this product by July 1st. And that certainly includes Chief Moore, Brad, and from your perspective, Mary Jane, you and Greg and Lori, who have all been engaged. Also, I need, because we want to make this look attractive, I would ask that we include Charisse, the beautification group, because we've got a lot of flower product. They're right at the moment, we don't have much direction on what we're going to do with it, other than the fact that it's bought and paid for and it's waiting to be used in some form.
Right. And I met with Charisse and Lori and Catherine Erickson, and I met to go over that planning, you know, her thoughts on the planters and the flowers and everything like that. So I probably didn't fill you in on that, but Charisse had some great ideas about how to move planters around and not spend any additional money and move some flower baskets around and things like that. So I think she's, you know, definitely want to include her, but she's already had some great input into the whole plan.
I just wanted to mention also that we applied for some money from the Sun Fund, the Adirondack Foundation Sun Fund, for this project and for the village kind of the, you know, kickstart, local kickstart. So we do have some money to help move this forward. You know, if it is whatever might come our way, we do have a little bit of money. Very little bit of money at this point, by the way. And also I wanted to just reach out and let you know that my understanding, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had a couple other communities that have reached out to ask, that are considering also closing their main streets, either one way or all together, and asking what our process was. So
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, supposedly Lori met with some marketing people from Ulster County and ESD, and she indicated that the state was interested in using our plan as a model for other communities. And, you know, without even us going forward yet, the word is obviously out from the media. The Enterprise had a good editorial, and through some articles, I think other communities are interested in doing the same thing that we hope to be doing. So it's pretty.
One point that we need to clarify, and I saw some question on it in the last couple of days, is the hours of operation. And I think what the village is considering is that those hours would range from 7 in the morning until, which covers the breakfast hour for people that are dining outside, I guess, but would be finished and would coincide with the noise ordinance of the village, which at this point is 9:30 at night. We're thinking that most dining is over with by that time. And looking at the state liquor authority's requirements, it appears that they really are leaning heavily toward sit-down dining. They do not permit, apparently, stand-up portable bars or that sort of activity. So I think what we're looking at here, the properties would be providing tables, chairs for sit-down. The SLA normally requires that these spaces so used have to be contiguous to the business that is licensed in their case. So, but they're making an interesting exception for pedestrian thoroughfares, which I interpret to mean sidewalk, because the sidewalk is a public space on which no consumption of alcoholic beverage would be permitted whatsoever. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, that's correct.
So we have some points, I think, where it would be helpful that we all as a group could sit down and just work out the final details. The village will require the properties that are engaged in this activity using these spaces would be required. They have to have they'll have to apply for a permit from the village. I don't believe there'll be a fee for the permit, but there will be, there are the usual public property liability issues that we have to address.
And Jim has some more details on that as well, as far as the SLA requirements. I did want to just mention one thing. To move forward with this successfully, it seems like we should try and have a date where things are, you know, set up and ready to go prior to July 4th or July 1st, you know, just so that we can work out some of the kinks before what we hope to, I think most of us hope to have some visitors back in our area and onto our main street. So just hate to have the opening day potentially one of the busiest days.
Well, you're only 3 weeks out. We need to know exactly what we're blocking off the road with, because it has to go to Creighton Manning for the permit.
Yeah.
You don't even have a highway permit yet. I know they've given a blessing, but that stuff doesn't happen overnight. And
so Brad, what are the steps that have to be taken and by whom, I guess? And I guess this is probably part of the committee meeting.
Well, I had a conference call with Frank Manning today. They need to know what we're doing the Main Street with. What are we using? Are we using boulders? Are we using bicycle fence? Are we using concrete barriers? They need to have that in that report so they can get that to the DOT. They need to have we need to know if we're going to use boulders, we need to say boulders right now and get that to Creighton Manning. Or are we going to use a couple of different things?
I thought that's where we were using bullets, like as of 2 weeks ago.
That was the early discussion.
Where did it change?
The boulders seem to be, they're problematic in the fact that in order to move them, they have to be pushed. So it's gonna as in good shape as we can. And so in our conversations with Ivan, Creighton Manning, Brad, and myself, my recommendation is maybe the village purchase or lease some of those water barriers and maybe an Adirondack green color or something. That's what my thoughts are.
Okay.
I think it will be aesthetically pleasing, and we can definitely work easier with those, because it's going to take a lot of man hours to get boulders up there. So,
and that isn't an issue so much, like, but you have the recommendation that replaces that. I think that's what the disconnect is going on, is that Creighton Manning now needs to know what we're doing. We decided what we're doing, but then we didn't. People decided not to do that. So what is the recommendation? It seems to be a lot of around.
No, nobody has anybody said what we're doing.
That's why I feel like it seems to be kind of like a nebulous ongoing discussion without any sort of phase of moving into a more tangible yes or no. And I think that's
what we need, is a yes or no what you're using.
So like our recommendation, what's the recommendation to the board for the barriers? That's kind of where I'm having trouble understanding.
The village has actually been trying to work this project forward, and again, it does require some support from Creighton Manning. Luckily for us, the underlying traffic plans had already been done for the Main Street rebuild project.
Okay,
So we're having those modified to work for July and August as well. There's signage requirements that have to be put in place. DOT needs to see all of that before they'll issue the actual permit, but
Okay.
they've indicated, based upon conversations I've had with the director of Region 1, which is our region, that they're supportive of what we're trying to do.
okay.
They are supportive,
It's
but
amazing.
I'm gonna say 2 weeks
They are-
later.
they're not the ones that are gonna be going, the one at the very top, Patrick, is not gonna be the one looking at all these plans.
Certainly.
So that's
So
where.
my understanding is, I'm sorry to interrupt, but my understanding is we need to make some definitive decisions quickly.
And
So,
also, the decision that needs to be made is, are we keeping, in the areas we're keeping parking, is it staying parallel parking the way we are right now, or are we gonna try to do some form of angled parking so you could fit more cars? That has to be in that report, so we can ask whether or not we can have parking that we pull in and then back out into the street, or parking that we angle so that you back in from the one-way direction.
We're thinking we get more parking if we do the.
You can do more, but you're gonna have to block out everything we painted already, and you're going to have to lay that all out so that it's very well defined, and
Okay.
DOT is gonna wanna know that.
Will DOT let you do angled?
We don't know.
We don't know that.
Everything I've heard since we've been in office is no, but I'm just curious.
I don't know, in this special circumstance, they might. That's why we were thinking maybe angle it the other direction where you back.
Jason, I think the reason that it's been going around is we're waiting to find out some of these reports the public sent on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's my.
we just got the survey information at the end of the week.
We haven't met since then, so I think everybody was sort of waiting to see what the sentiment was.
Okay, I just,
Can we
you know,
wait
like,
to vote on this on Monday, Greg, before we definitive?
Well, we would formalize, I'm hoping that
I
today,
think
where everybody is comfortable enough that we keep forging ahead. I think we should. I'm very concerned for our businesses this summer that are probably going to be operating, if you're a dining facility, with seating at 50% of what you currently have. And if you cut every dining room's capacity by 50%, we will not have open businesses come fall.
and in the interest of transparency, my wife's business, they're contemplating when they're even going to be able to open this. And I'm supporting this because of, but there are other retail aspects that it could benefit. And if the overwhelming majority of the community doesn't want it, then that's just what it is. And but if they do want it, I just want to make sure that the government part is as efficient as it possibly can be, because we do have a habit of really kind of diving in depth in a couple of months.
Yeah, I think we'll have a good look at it. So Brad set up a meeting with Ivan, we met with him yesterday. Ivan's gonna do a schematic similar to what the Main Street reconstruction is like, but he's gonna use a different color to block out the spots, so the board has a good visual. Hopefully tomorrow or the latest Thursday. Right?
We should have that,
So we'll have a good
Monday.
visual.
Brad,
Yeah,
so I hear what you're saying, that, you know, the schematics and to have a better look, and just so we're clear, so is it agreed that yes, that this project is moving forward? And then also, do you have recommendations for what it should be, if it shouldn't be boulders? And then,
it shouldn't be, but I've said since the beginning, if we want boulders up there, I would like to know like immediately, and I can start, like you said, we want this up there early. I should be putting boulders in the main lot right now so that I can move them quicker when we need to set this
right,
up.
but I think that Chief Moore had some recommendations on that. Is that right, Chief Moore?
It's still a moving target, so to speak. But I it's my recommendation. I think just from what I've done with Ivan and Brett, in the ease of things, I think it would be better for the water barriers. It's my personal opinion.
I mean, that makes complete sense, where it really minimizes.
That's assuming we can get delivered.
Well, that's the other thing. Right now, getting green water barriers in 3 weeks is impossible, I would almost say. Unless you're gonna paint every one of the yellow ones they give you. And then getting brand new water barriers here in 3 weeks, probably impossible. if you're gonna use barriers that are there for rent, they are barriers that direct traffic, so they're not gonna be very nice looking. That's what I'm trying to get at. So if we decide we want to go with something, whatever it is, needs to be soon so we can get it here. Just so we can make this happen. We don't want to approve a plan and say this is what we're doing July 1st and we can't provide our end of it.
And Chief Moore, what was the concern with the barriers?
Well, it's public safety is the reason that I like the barriers personally. The Jersey barricades that Greg has, I think he's still on, he's volunteered to let us use those. There's 12 of those. They're only 6 feet a piece though. But the Jersey barricades can be moved a little bit easier. And for a variety of reasons, for Brad's people, it would be much easier to place them. And definitely we can block off individual spots that are assigned to people's stores, so to speak.
Okay. And the Jersey barriers, just my clarification, those are the concrete ones.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the Jersey barriers are concrete, but you can also get them in polyvinyl.
That's the water.
And you fill them with water.
Oh, okay.
And they're very easy to move when you don't need them.
Greg, what color is yours, the concrete or the vinyl water filled?
These are the concrete ones.
Can they be painted? We have a whole bunch of kids graduating, in 3 days.
There are a couple of major objections that have come out from occasional individuals in the community, and I had some thoughts on and wanted some discussion on how we might resolve them. One or two of the stores were opposed to the idea because they don't want to use they don't want to put their stuff outdoors. I understand that. The idea that the Chief and I have discussed, and frankly, this is something that we could be doing. Curbside delivery became very important during the last 3 months. It's kept a lot of our stores. It kept the bookstore going. It's kept our restaurants operating on the main street. And I would like to recommend that we create a curbside delivery where somebody pulling up to the curb that's just waiting for a store to bring out their order would not have to pay the meter, as long as it's a standing vehicle and the driver is in the vehicle. That's one thing I think we could work in, and frankly, I think that could be going on indefinitely. It's not something that's tied just to this idea, but it's a way of addressing the store that has a complaint that there's nothing in this project for them. So where we have spaces for parking on the curbside, that would be permitted so long as the driver of the vehicle remained in the vehicle. It's a standing vehicle as opposed to a parked vehicle. Chief tells me that we can accommodate that very easily. And in fact, we probably do now. The second thing that we had was a major complaint that this project would divert too much traffic around Mirror Lake Drive, and the person that complained did not like that idea at all. Said that it makes it dangerous for that person who likes to walk or bike around Mirror Lake. The diversion plan actually diverts traffic west up Saranac Avenue and back over Hillcrest or West Valley, depending. My thought on that is that we would put a sign at the end of Main Street that indicates something to the effect of local traffic only, which might help, and with an arrow for all other traffic. So I think we owe it to our community to try to address what some people see as unwelcome problems that they'd rather not deal with. So those are a couple of thoughts as to how we try to balance this, and I don't think they're bad ideas. We do have a lot going on the backside of Mirror Lake Drive. I will certainly agree with that thought. And that's going to be going on all summer with the sidewalk construction. So one of the recommendations that I've made, I drive that road 2 times a day, so does the Chief and probably Brad too. And the village speed limit is 25 miles an hour, which works fairly well. But when you ramp that up to 30 miles an hour, which is where the town is, all of a sudden traffic is moving fast, and we do have people now without the sidewalk that are having to walk in the road right of way on one side or the other. I suggested to the town supervisor that maybe for the period of construction, which will last until September, that they might consider lowering that speed limit, which I think is within their jurisdiction.
That makes a lot of sense.
One of the real problems that we don't see in the village is that from Northwood School Road to Harbor Lane, which is in the village, that's a pretty much in the summertime a significant bypass for traffic that doesn't want to come through Main Street to begin with. And you'll see that traffic, and you'll see it at 5 o'clock going up over Victor Herbert Road and coming out on Saranac Avenue. So those are just a couple of thoughts that, and Bill and I were talking today about, we can't send our police cars outside the village and enforce the speed limit out there, but we probably could be a little more visible and maybe on each end of the village, get people aware of the fact that we're watching that because of all the activity that's going on out there. So those are just a couple of issues that we have to, I think, factor into our decisions here. I don't think that they are deal breakers. I just think we need to be aware of those concerns. Other thoughts?
I mean, it's unlikely we're gonna be able to get these smaller filters, so older. Few jersey barriers we have, it's the only solution we have.
Can you get water barriers with the same thing?
Yeah, you can look at them, like Mindy just pulled some things up. The issue is,
In 3 weeks.
if more and more people are doing this, a lot of things are gonna say they can get here. And it's gonna be an aesthetics thing also.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I doubt you're gonna get anything that, like, she just pulled up some white ones. You might be able to get white ones. You might be able to do something that looks good. My whole thing is, if we wanna go, if boulders are what people feel would look the best, it would just be nice to have, say, yeah, that's what we're doing, let me start that.
So that's a border. I think that's a border.
If that's what you're gonna ask me, there's no way I'm gonna do it with a couple of days to go.
Okay.
Like, now we can't get anything else, it's boulders, start calling boulders.
Where would you start?
You need the DOT permit before the July 1st. You need this to be able to do this.
But I can start moving stuff if I have to move them back, yeah, but I just don't wanna be at the last second, be the
Yeah.
person that can't get.
You want to be able to stage it to make it a smooth transition.
Or maybe it's do both. Maybe we put barriers to keep it in areas and then we close in with boulders. Or maybe it's a boulder, bicycle fence boulder. If you can get bicycle fence, that stuff they use for Ironman and stuff like that.
So you only need them on the south side and on the traffic lane, on the
Yes.
line itself.
Yes.
Because on the other side, traffic's coming.
Yeah.
You
So
don't need it on the north side.
but it has to be what you decide.
Okay.
Because in the beginning, you thought that the concrete barriers, water barriers were aesthetically not pleasing. So we said, that's when Greg, when we looked and there's a big pile of rocks, it just would be nice to know if that's where we're going, let's just make that decision
Sure.
and go with it then.
That makes sense.
If the rocks,
Probably
I'm just worried about damage to the parking lots.
the one parking lot I was thinking is right in MBT and the part that we just threw all the crap on the bottom.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter, I can just put more driving.
Good. Yeah.
and the other issue with the boulders is, because I know we don't want to drag the boulders and damage the street surface any more than it is. But can we use a backhoe claw?
Well, that's what our plan was, setting up boulders where we put 4 or 5 in the lower bucket, grab them, set them, set them. But that just needs to be decided if that's what we want to do.
We need to rent a wheeled excavator. I mean, Luck Brothers has one here.
Yeah, there's 2 around the way, either that or, I mean, our rubber tractor will not scratch the ground.
Yeah.
We have rubber
It's
tractor.
it's a lot slower than.
Yeah. That's just, if in fact we're gonna decide, make the decision and let me get this going, and then
Yeah.
even if it doesn't happen, or it happens a little later, at least we're right.
I feel like the progress that you and the chief have made, the modifications, I won't say concessions, but the compromises with the existing businesses, there's going to be some that necessarily going to be happy regardless, but it does accommodate for both. It really, I think, you did a great job, like having those spots open for those to accommodate those who have established.
You look at someplace like Newman's News, you know, curb traffic is quick.
Yeah,
Somebody then gets paper, does it make sense to block off for a spot?
yeah.
You know, she would be out of business.
Bookstore Plus, they with the express desire, they keep that open, they can do the same thing. And that's, I feel like we've reached the detail component of it. Now just the barriers for the board to decide, yes, we're doing this, and here's what the barriers are. This is what we have available, and make it a relatively educated decision in a short span of time so we can get this ready for if we truly are behind this. Otherwise,
And
I feel like we're just
personally
dragging
feel
it
the
out.
parking also, keeping it the way it is gonna be a lot easier to sell it to Tina and that group than it is trying to do angle.
I really am not interested in angled parking because then you've got to back out against.
Yeah,
the
it just
traffic.
seems not safe.
I mean, it puts more parking up there, but the only reason I'm bringing it up, Frank said I need to know if you're gonna try that, I need to put it with them.
No,
Because you know, Tina's gonna say, you didn't give me this.
Plus you're ready to repainting.
Yeah, no, that just seems.
Understand what we're trying to accomplish here, Mary Jane, and Greg, is to try to address the people that don't see any real benefit from it. So preserving some of that parking, I felt was important. And also then trying to carry forward the concept of takeout for Main Street businesses that have found out that that's a way of life that's actually worked for them. And I think we can make that all happen. It doesn't mean that any particular parking spot is going to be reserved for one particular storefront. We can't do that. But we can set it up so that if somebody pulls into a spot and dials the bookstore and says, I'm out at the curb, I'm waiting for my order, they can bring it out and they're not going to have to be the meter for that period of time. If they leave the car, then our normal traffic enforcement will be in place. The other thing we need from the businesses, as much as possible, is their support. It would be helpful if we could try to encourage deliveries to be done before 12 o'clock noon. And at the same time, to try to get employee vehicles, which right now, people up on Main Street, they're mostly people that are living or employed or operating businesses on the street are what's keeping our street full. It looks nice because there's cars there, but we're gonna restart the meters Monday. And that's probably a piece of news we should get out.
And we're enforcing the parking permits again. So I think that's critical in the sense that if we're gonna go with the meters and with parking permits, that we thoroughly enforce them.
Parking permits have not changed. The locations of parking sites are still exactly the same.
No, I understand that.
No intent to change.
So just like when parking not in a perfect world, you know, we get to the point where we seem to speed along and things are getting back to normal, then we won't have the New Jersey Ontario plates and permit parking sort of scenario. Just when we phase it out, we need to make it clear to employees, we're moving back to normal. These are where this is where you need to be. And then really encourage that so that we can have those drop-off spaces that you, and even sign it. I feel like they shouldn't even be parking spots if we're going to designate those drop-offs sooner, like you were talking about.
Well, they need to be parking spots, so there's really.
No, I mean paid. If you're coming in and just parking and then delivering.
For somebody that pulls in and parks, they're gonna pay the meter. For somebody that just pulls up and stands there and waits for a delivery, they're not going to they're not gonna be enforced. And our officers, frankly, even now, if somebody's sitting in the vehicle, they might suggest that they move along, but if they say, well, I'm waiting for Mark to bring out an order of books, that's gonna be fine.
That's the one thing I'm afraid of, is that because the business owners who wanted the spots in front, if someone just parks and pays the meter and leaves, it defeats the whole purpose.
Well, it does, but on the other hand, a parking place is a parking place. All we're saying is if somebody pulls in, and they can pull into any open space they see and call for their order, and presumably the shop is going to bring it out.
So the messaging from the village perspective is that those those meters are, and the timing is going to be very thoroughly enforced. So there's no.
I'd like to say that.
Bill, is it something that you can take the cars that are now parked there that you know are locals and just put a note on their windshield or something telling them that Monday their meters will start to be enforced?
Jason's been talking to them
Okay, good.
on a regular basis on our Facebook.
And then another question, Mary Jane was there, sat in at the Lake Placid Business Association, had a Zoom meeting this morning. One of the questions they had is, if somebody's doing curbside pickup, can they pull into a loading zone?
Provided they stay in the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, if a truck comes and has to get in, they would just have to move, but they could come in there and
You know, we don't want them there for a long period of time.
But if they're in their car, then.
That's for loading and unloading. So if they're loading something in it, maybe the minimum is food.
Happens all the time.
Okay, that's fine. And the other question they had was Hillcrest parking, they asked me about, and I said only where there's parking allowed. And I know we've had places where people park, if they're not, we're going to be putting in fog lines. What are you doing on Hillcrest for parking?
Hillcrest gets critical because that's one of your diversion lanes for Main Street now. That's your southbound
So
Main
basically,
Street.
wherever there's parking, there'll be parking. Where there isn't, we'll have fog lines and you'll not be allowed to.
That's correct. The only real parking on Hillcrest is near the Village Park.
And then I mentioned this to Bill, that they asked about speed bumps on Hillcrest, and I mentioned it 2 times. He said there weren't any plans currently. Any thoughts on that? You know, temporary speed bumps?
They're so close together.
Yeah. Because you can, they're like if you're coming from St. Agnes, they're kind of soon enough that they kind of slows you down, but you're coming from Peter's Mansion, you can fly down from the road.
I think we can get all of this stuff flushed out. If the general consensus is to keep this project moving, then we will work out the answers to those questions as they come up, so that there's a
The feedback I received.
there'll be a narrative description of the project by the time we're done.
I know that I've received some feedback that we don't really need it, and the locals can kind of take over Main Street again for a little bit of time, but this particular project is so unique that it plays well into Roost's local Kickstart, that it gives it something a little extra special to get locals to come out and take over Main Street, kind of like when they do it at around 8AKE.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Where you just have, you have a restaurant to yourself, and you look over and there's like, oh, there's a parent of a student, and there's like Brad, and it's just like, it's for the first wave, the locals are taking over these places and feeling safe to come out. I feel like this is so unique that we will get then soon afterwards, or then as things start to ease up, we can start giving the space for those visitors.
Okay, so we will continue to work. Mary Jane, it might be helpful if we could pull together the core group for a brief meeting.
Was that
Okay, oh, thank you. Also, Jim's on the call, and then I just wanted to also speak to, Jason was referring to, getting some local activity onto Main Street and to the local restaurants and businesses. But Jim, do you want to just jump in and talk about the State Liquor Authority?
If the board would like. I mean, there's specific guidelines that the State Liquor Authority has put out for phase 2, and there'll probably be some new ones in phase 3, we think. We're not sure, haven't seen them yet, but are you familiar with that, Mayor, and the process that would, that the municipality and the business, the licensee, has to go through?
I have all of that material, Jim, and I think the licensee has some things they have to do, but they also have to have a copy of a letter of authorization from the village to be using what is public property in this particular way. They're very, very well-defined directions on that, and for example, they're very strict. A restaurant can't. So let's take Sonny's Players Sports Bar. He can't go to the other side of the park and have a remote service area. It's got to be contiguous to his property, even if it is public property.
Okay.
The one exception
Right.
is that They recognize the pedestrian thoroughfare, which I interpret to be our sidewalk,
That's what I enjoy.
because the restrictions here would be that a waiter can bring beverages out to the area that's designated where the tables are, but you can't consume this beverage on the sidewalk. Right, Bill?
Yes, that's the way I understand it.
So
That's correct. And just everything, they're requesting everything be submitted from the municipality and the business together in sort of, there's a couple of forms that have to be done. But if you have those guidelines, I think you're good. I just wanted to make sure you knew of that. And, you know, the only other thing I was going to comment on is, you know, phase 3 is coming up. We don't have an exact date when phase 3 will start. There's similar processes to phase 2. The governor's office is reviewing all the data. They have some international health experts that are looking at it, but we think that that will be happening shortly. Just don't have a definite date, just for everybody's information.
well, it would be important for that to happen. If it doesn't happen, then the outdoor dining all these places are going to have.
Correct. So we should hear more on that over the next few days, we hope.
Okay, MJ, if we can pull the core group together on this maybe for a meeting, just to make sure we've got our ducks all lined up and know what each other's doing, I think that would be worthwhile.
Okay. Before we get out of your way, I just wanted to let you know that we've been working with, we've created a community outreach committee, which is a group of local community members to help Roost kind of position ourselves or navigate through some of the concerns that the community has, or to, I guess, better to say, to close the gap between our community and Roost. You know, I think for a long time, we've realized that, you know, 90% of what we do is we speak to the traveler, and then obviously we speak to our boards, such as our elected boards, but a lot of, or some of, whatever percentages it is of the people that live in the community don't really understand what we do or why we do it, and sometimes there's some feelings that, you know, that we've created this environment where the community is here for the traveler, whereas obviously the traveler is here to enhance the community. So we've been have had 2 meetings, and they've been really, in my mind, productive and very enlightening. One of the things that Roost has been working on since the middle of March, when the whole world turned upside down, was turning more into the community and supporting the community and helping them navigate through these uncertain times. As we start to open up for business, we know from a survey, we did a resident sentiment survey that, which we haven't put together all of that data, but we will have it for our regional call tomorrow. But we understand that there is a concern about having travelers come back into our community. With that said, there's also a concern about what's going to happen to the businesses if we don't have travelers come back into the community. So part of our local kickstart, which is the second phase after mitigation, which is when everything was closed and no travel, is the local kickstart. And so we're using this opportunity to promote businesses, the restaurants, the retail stores, and any lodging properties that are going to have, you know, staycation packages to the local community, to highlight and to remember, you know, it's the community jumpstart campaign, and it's remembering your favorite places or experiencing your favorite places. I don't know what the tagline is exactly, but, and we're going to be promoting that, you know, through some traditional, you know, on our social media channels, engaging the businesses to have them promote it, maybe even some radio. So the purpose of this campaign is to try and highlight the restaurants and the businesses that are opening and trying to get some movement around our communities within our region. So I just wanted to share that with you quickly and very briefly. And, you know, some of those details will be rolling out. We want to start it. Our plan is next Wednesday, which I'm guessing on the date, but it is the 18th, and it would go through the 30th. And so it's not necessarily all discounts, but it might be, you know, a local cocktail, a favorite product, favorite local product, you know, a local brew, a local burger, whatever it might be, just to kind of put that local flavor and local attention back to the businesses that are in our communities.
So may I add, Mary Jane, so it's more internal messaging to the people who live here of what's
Correct.
going on. And encourage them to participate and support the local businesses. I saw one, a meme or a post, local businesses were always fantastic when you wanted a donation for this cause or that cause. It'd be nice to return the favor at this point. So, you know,
Okay, I think that's a good undertaking, MJ, and certainly we support it.
And hopefully that would then segue into the whole Main Street and getting Main Street busier. And, you know, the one way is obviously to support local businesses. So it kind of all ties in together in the end. Just one last thing, and that is and I think we touched on this, but just for clarification, if we see as things unfold through the summer that the one way isn't working for whatever reason, really not working, is there the position to, you know, we can pull the plug, or is it if you're in it for till September?
I think the board is going to want to reserve the opportunity if there's a massive failure of this undertaking, especially in terms of congested traffic, that we're going to need to reserve the rights to take whatever appropriate actions are required, which could include bagging the project if it seems to make
Not
sense.
to mention weather. I mean, it could pour rain all summer. We've had
Weather, let's hope we have a nice summer, but because outdoor dining doesn't lend itself to rain.
well, and I agree with that. I just would think that we keep Greg and MJ in the loop so that the businesses the businesses who are a little, maybe one step away, all of a sudden, oh, the plug being pulled tomorrow. So there's some forewarning or some discussion. We can tweak a few things to make it successful before having to pull the plug.
You know, really, the objective of all of this is to put more people on Main Street and also to address those people that may be nervous about going into an enclosed area right now because we're all pretty raw from the cautions that are being bombarded on us every day about being careful about social distancing, about what you touch, all of those things. So I think we're doing something that makes sense. I think we'll all view it as an experiment. I'm hopeful it accomplishes as much as we're able to do, and we'll go from there.
And I'll make a pledge, just so you guys know, I'll make a pledge to eat out at least 3 times a week on Main Street. Maybe 4, maybe 5.
Also, we have our regional call tomorrow at 9:30. We hope all of you are able to join. We have a pretty robust itinerary, and we hope it'll be very informative.
We've got the email out with the links.
Yes, yep. Everybody, if anybody doesn't have it, it's on our Roost Facebook page. Is the easiest place to go to get it. It's the Regional Office of Sustainable Tourism, but if you type in Roost in the search field on Facebook, it comes up.
And
And that's at 9:30 tomorrow morning.
Last point, if you remember, Mary Jane, the Business Association wanted to know about was alternative parking. And I know you mentioned St. Agnes, but then they mentioned other places with a shuttle bus. If your core group gets together, you at least ought to decide if you're going to do that or not going to, and let them know that it is or isn't going to happen.
Yeah, I might add that the shuttle bus, which is not operating, we do need to contact the county and see what the current thinking is on what their status is going to be for July and August. Because right now they're not running.
And when is the core meeting, core group?
I'm leaving that to Mary Jane to work out with this.
It'll be soon.
Okay.
I'll connect with the peoples.
Lori
for the best
Fitzgerald,
time.
group, I'm sure, isn't she?
Yes.
Lori.
Okay.
I have Sharice, Lori, Brad, Greg, Catherine, myself. Mayor, did
Chief
you
Moore.
want to be on that core committee? Or no?
Billy Moore?
Oh, yeah, Billy Moore, that's right. I knew there was someone. Sorry, Chief. Okay. Thank you for letting us take your time.
For all the effort you're all putting in. I mean, what the village is doing is carrying its load, but without the community input that you're all putting into it, this would not be happening. There's no question about that.
Thank you for all your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll talk soon. All right, bye-bye.
In the interest of moving along on this, just the next 2 or 3 items here. Mirror Lake Sidewalk Project, I believe that the Brad can bring us up to date on the decisions on the concrete and the artistic approach to making concrete look nice.
Or 2 test strips. Either one of them was very well taken by anybody.
I drove around and like, I missed it.
So what we did is
You drive in the dark, you can't see black in the dark.
No, it was just like, I think that was.
we decided to go with just 5,000 PSI concrete, just plain old concrete. You know what we're gonna get, it'll be consistent, cheaper. So looks like the color is out right now.
Okay, so
That's, everybody that I spoke with said that's probably the best thing to do. So
Talent. This seems to be the new phrase. Well, the talent already signed off on
they were on the same thing. They agree with what our decision is. So
it's gonna be great.
it's just gonna be regular old
Prison grade.
concrete. Yeah.
Sidewalk, right?
The first one
Sidewalk, right.
was,
Tomato, tomato.
was pink, and then the second one was
Yellow.
poured black top.
Poor flat top, cold patch the whole way around.
You couldn't distinguish it from the street.
Or the town
So,
side.
I mean,
I
it,
don't know if it was wet, because I think it looked, it was like a dark gray. It looked good against the curving.
it looked nice, but I have an awful feeling that it would be hard to have consistent, because you have to have the same amount of water, same amount of mix, same amount of humidity, same amount of, everything has to be perfect for every panel to match. You're talking hundreds of loads of concrete. So,
And would it fade over the years?
and we don't know what it looks like over here, you know? So we know what concrete will look like,
Mhm.
and I guess that's probably our safest bet right now. And they're pouring one day. They're supposed to pour tomorrow, we got them off one day. And if we would have had to make a decision today to get color here, and I just don't think anybody's happy with what was poured. So that's where we are with that. Right now, they have curving almost to the village line from Northwood School Road. So they're gonna set back up Monday and start pouring those sections. The transition curves into the driveways look much nicer than the transition into the beach.
They're
Much
nice.
less.
They're nice.
And that's because of the lower curve, correct?
Yeah, well, it's the same distance as the one at the beach, but the one at the beach is in that distance is a 4-inch elevation.
So the curve
Like it's 3-inch elevation climb. So it is much less, and you can definitely tell it's less. Looks nice.
We'll get people back on the sidewalks again.
Yeah, it'll be nice and flat. Drainage work's going along well. Most of the catch basins are in, both town and village. And we have one section towards the boathouse that we had to redesign because the people on the attached lodges do not want their trees damaged, so we had to reroute around the trees to get the drainage in there. And to expedite it, we went with Lucy's property, and they told us go ahead and do whatever we want to do. That's where we moved it.
Moving on to the sewer plant, the purchase order is here for the updated SCADA workstations and software. I need, Peter, I think you've already signed it. I need another signature on this PO so we can get that going.
So it's being worked on, but
Or if you don't mind, I'll sign up.
Sign away.
Who's that one? And moving on, it was, I asked Kim to be here. We have a document to be signed locating, where did it get to here? That would install, and this is installing 4 charging ports on what I believe all I have is a parcel number, not the name of the location. It's 2723 Main Street. We could put it down by Stewart's.
Correct.
When we were talking about this the last time in work session, we were thinking about, I know we debated the municipal lot and putting them up there. And then when I spoke with Peter the other day, for some thought we were going to put one near the restrooms in the Muni lot and
Yes.
the other one in Stewart's.
That's what I thought it was going to be, but I figured that all that went on, that there's a high probability of things changing. So I don't, are we still doing the same in the municipal lot?
All we need is, I think what Kimball needs is confirmation from the board as to what the board is doing right now. All 2 units, each has 2 charging ports, would be going into the Stewart's lot.
So the proposal is where we want to go full Stewart's right now?
I think we should have one split it up. Maybe lot and one. That's right.
Well, I like your idea of providing some people to walk down Main Street that they're charging and dine and shop and then come back to their car shops. Just not only the paying for the electricity, but paying for the parking and.
I think it's gonna get used more than.
Yeah.
Will there be signage to identify these sites for?
It's usually on your cell phone.
It'll be on the web, on the software of the Tesla, whatever it is.
And we'll have that additional signage saying parking, number of hours. Because what, did we decide that people can park regular parking after a certain point?
In discussion Kimball and I had, if somebody leaves their car there and charges and it goes beyond the charge time, they would have to pay regular parking rates. And the way this apparently works is that correct me if I'm wrong here, Tim, but I believe the revenue from this will come into the general fund.
That's what I spoke to Vicky about.
And
I contacted NIPA. NIPA says the electric department cannot give the power away. Someone has to pay for it. So.
Plus, we're also getting the meter fee.
Yes. So it's a win-win.
It's a win,
Why would the fee from that go into the general fund versus the electric fund?
you're going to pay for the electricity out of general.
But the electric department pays the general fund back for the electricity.
Doesn't matter.
However you feel like do you feel like the appropriate?
It's an accounting issue, so
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're comfortable with doing this. It's just a case of how we set it up for accounting purposes.
Just want to charge
Capable of
15 cents a kilowatt.
And have we decided, are they all going to be at one site?
The guy said they typically charge 20 cents.
Yes,
So that'd be more than we can make out of residential.
I don't really mind I don't object to the electric department getting the electric revenue.
And,
But I think Mindy should look at how that needs to set up.
I trust her in
Yeah.
deciding on how.
Now there is a $4,291 out-of-pocket charge kind of for charging station. But we're somewhere near the 100K with IEP. And they said we could use IEP funds. And my thought was if these are successful, use that as seed money for another one.
Well, I'm looking at the document in my hand here, which is the host agreement. It says NYSERDA will provide $4,000 per charging port installed upon completion of the installation of charging equipment and the provision of appropriate documentation.
We have to front the money.
That's all. It's no different than any other grant.
Yeah.
But if there is, then there's at least some of it's recoverable.
How many kilowatts does a typical car take to charge?
If it's fully depleted and you want to charge it full 200-mile range, it would be 57 kWh. So the charge would be $11.50 about at 20 cents a kWh.
So we figured we got some happens.
Mhm.
So can I get back to the location for just a minute? Are we going to put them both units at Stewart's, or are we going to put one up at the restrooms in the Muni lot?
I vote one.
Mhm.
I do too.
And two.
Okay. Then
I'd
I'll
like them both down by my place.
I will need another document for the other part.
Someone's going to be creative, or Lucy's going to be involved in the Muni lot. Or do we just not tell
Or the 10.
They have some of their own. Yes.
them? No, but if you look up the property ID, I think the lower half, I looked it up
Well,
before the
you know
meeting,
what?
and it was the order.
You are right. This does have to be executed by the property owner. We have.
We have a lease on it though, or we
Yeah.
have rights
We
to the
have-
property.
Yeah.
That's things like installer meter, I would think, right?
Yeah, that would, same with parking here. Would be my assumption. Charge for parking, charge for electricity.
Well, in this case, I'll sign whatever you put in front of it. Okay, but at this point, the preferred would be one at each location, one unit. And presumably there's power someplace close by.
There's power, and I think Brad's going to have to look and see what's the best spot to.
Maybe it's in the lower end of the town section.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll work with, Mindy will work on the accounting end of it, and get us a form for the other location, and we'll go forward with it. The next thing I have here is another purchase order, and this work has already been done. But one of our fire trucks had extensive, I guess this is body work, but I think it was body work, mechanical
Well,
work.
it's 5-year preventive maintenance is part of that, which includes flow test and pump test, which hadn't been done in quite a while. So it's basically went down to 5-year preventive maintenance with other things attached to it. Body work being one of them, repairing the stairs that have been broken for quite some time since we actually got the truck. There was some frayed electrical wires in the electrical component. Some lights were out. And we knew the money was in the budget, but it was over what we thought it was going to be. So next time that we do this, I recommend Justin that we have to get at least an estimate of what it's going to cost. So it's not it's in the budget. So pretty much guesstimates his truck budget for the year.
The purchase order is $13,850. The work is all done on it, and this is a 2015 truck that we probably just gave it quite a bit more life.
10 more years is what we figured.
Art, do you want to? Sure. Okay, and that brings us down to budget. You all received from Mindy, I think, last night, the budget, or the mayor's budget. Frankly, we were fairly conservative this year, and you'll notice that it, in most cases, mirrors last year's budget. There were some areas where we trimmed revenues because we are uncomfortable with what's going on out there. Sales tax, we trimmed it back $27,500. We have no way of knowing at this point, but we thought we ought to take a shot at dropping it. Community policing program, we dropped, this is mostly Halloween fundraising. We don't have Mr. Perkins, who retired, but he used to twist arms, so we dropped it by $2,500 bill just to be conservative, because we'll have a new team out there working.
And there might still be an issue if there's a fault there potentially. So
Parking, Parking lots, we dropped by, let me see, 100, we dropped by $70,000 total. Again, knowing that we dropped $20,000 that we're aware of just in the last months of March and April, or April and May, and we're dropping some in June. We're hopeful that we can, I'm going to ask the board to look at the rates for meters, not on curbside particularly, but the municipal parking lot. I think the day that we can, it's 50 cents an hour right now, or $5 a day, and the recommendations that Mindy and I have been looking at would bring that up to curb rate for the hourly rate, and $10 a day for all day. Keep in mind, this summer, we're probably not going to have the Can-Am people in the arena. They are the ones that largely feed those during the summertime. So these numbers reflect the fact that we need to raise the rates on that lot. The other ones are okay. I haven't really thought too much about the meters below the town hall. It's sort of secondary parking to Main Street. As we're pushing people off Main Street, that may become Main Street for parking.
So if it becomes a problem, we can always, or if we're lucky enough to have to be busy, we can always adjust that.
So there is that. And again, I'm only covering revenues today, I think, at your pleasure. We did have in here, and it's listed on page 2 of the revenue under unclassified revenue, $450,000, and that corresponds to a replacement truck for the fire department that I believe today
We're gonna remove that.
it's going to be removed. So it's budget neutral because the revenue comes out of a reserve account.
Okay.
But when you put the truck in as a capital cost, we needed to reflect the revenue piece.
We're going to put in the replacement of the chassis though.
Yeah, I left 50,000 in there for the chassis.
So what we will have to do Monday night is set a public hearing date for the budget. And obviously we've got to have it approved. The latest that we can approve is July 1st. So we've got some time to work on it. At your pleasure, after you've had more time to do it. If you want some work sessions on the budget, I'm more than happy to make the time available.
Craig, I said to you in the past, I would just like to not see an increase in the tax levy. Keep the tax levy neutral and take more out of the fund balance.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Actually, the tax levy at this moment goes up 3.5 cents. And we're using the full 2% that the cap allows. The rest of it, we're taking.
My point is not even to use any of the 2%, take more out of fund balance in this environment.
Well,
it would send a good message that we recognize the pain.
Okay, we're gonna have to cut something out of the budget.
Or use more fund balance.
Well, we're already using 575,000, which is 150,000 more than we did last year.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. That's why I said, I felt that 3.5 cents, maybe we can bring maybe we can find enough in here to trim that to 0 and keep the tax rate flat. That might be something we could try for. But we have a little bit of time to work on those things. So, I just wanted, given the time we've got, wanted to get it out there. The tax rate last year was $5.67. At the moment, it would be $5.70 before we.
Craig, that deciding that part wasn't included. It was just strictly the budget itself.
Yeah, I didn't put the levy in there
The
because.
levy sheet wasn't finished. I just had it. I did notice on the expenses that there was a $3,000 discrepancy between what's on the levy sheet and what the budget itself shows for total expense. That was weird.
Oh, I corrected that.
Okay. I don't know.
May I pause just for a moment since we're on? Do we forecast any particular issues when businesses and other people are not having to pay rent and in relation to business owner, like building owners not having the revenue, or those the revenue generated from renting to be able to pay? Is there, I know that might be a state, is that a state issue, or are we running into this locally? Do we anticipate running into this locally?
At this point, I have only heard concerns from one place, wondering if we are going to either waive penalties or extend our time frame for payments.
Okay.
And it's the vacation rentals off Morningside.
Okay.
Because
Well,
they
other than
haven't-
vacation. I was, thinking about.
It's the group that takes care of, no, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Was it part of the group that, that's what it is?
Could be. But they're concerned, they were curious if we were going to waive the.
Well, you've not heard from.
I have not,
There's no
no.
anticipation of it.
No, and to be perfectly honest with you, as far as revenues are concerned, the people that pay are still paying. Whether it's water, sewer, electric, what have you, the people who aren't paying are the habitual non-payers.
So you haven't seen an uptick in what would be
No.
unusual money?
No, obviously our accounts receivable is much higher right now, but it's because those people who know that they can get away with not paying their bill are.
They're just not paying.
Okay.
So even though normally in April, they would come in on the 15th, so we don't turn their power off, because NIPA, the state is not allowing a turn off, they're extending that time period. So it's giving these people more freedom to not pay.
We don't know, there's no end date to that. Yeah.
Not at the moment. I spoke with Daryl Jacobs from NIPA today, and he and I are gonna have a conference call tomorrow, because at this point in time, when we do go to shut people off, we're gonna have to increase the amount that they're gonna have to pay. Right now, it's your current plus 20% in arrears, and there's no way we're gonna get them caught up in respects to a payment plan, and that's what they're supposed to be on, is a payment plan, because by the time winter hits again, they're still gonna be in the hole from earlier in the year, and they're never gonna get caught up.
I'm going to shut it off in July.
Even that, or.
You know, we're keeping an eye on the
You
receivables.
want to keep the budget flat.
So they pay. They would pay their way out for Corona, they would pay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've always been successful in April when that came up, but it's going to be that much more difficult for them to, and again, they only have to pay 20% of the arrears. So the arrears is going to be bigger.
and I'm not 100% sure on this, and Kibble, maybe you know, we've always been able to shut commercial businesses off for non-payment throughout the year, regardless of whether it was winter, spring, summer, fall. I believe we can't even turn them off right now.
That's my belief too.
Because if they are not being paid their rent, or I guess let's see how they.
Right, well, we have, again, the habitual people who are on the turnoff list every single month.
Okay.
Those bills are relatively big. And if they're doing curbside delivery or takeout or whatever, they're still utilizing electricity. So, that's something.
It's not
to
their
check.
business, yeah, if you could.
I think maybe, and again, I know we can't do much
Is
about
there a
it. but
differentiation
maybe
between
we should do
residential
an
and
analysis
commercial?
of those receipts, license see,
Is it
I
remote?
guess we're probably going to make a bigger provision for charge off.
The longer we let it go, the harder it's going to be to fight.
Well, and as of right now, the state's just telling us we can't. But I have, like I said, I have a call with Daryl tomorrow, so maybe I can get an insight into when that's gonna change. I'm assuming it's probably a direct.
Would it be worth floating with Daryl, you know, if we have to write it off, might they write it off too, to us?
So we don't, no, I.
Some of it.
The dilemma that we have is that the states are in such spot, like dire, that they're requesting federal aid, but it trickles down to the local municipalities. I know our state aid isn't necessarily we're not like surrounding communities. However, but if we are going to, we're going to ask us to maybe make those own accommodations, we don't have the resources to be able to cover that. And to be able to function in the municipality. We need some revenue as well.
I mean, they didn't waive our budget payment every month that we have to make.
But we use less power this winter too.
Before Bill or Bradley, I do have a question. Dick Planning stopped me on my way in. There's a huge excavator sitting in the only open lane in front of his business. The other lane's closed up, and he's like, what's going on? Why can't people get to my business? Do you have any idea how long they're gonna be there, or just talk to?
They had a whole plan laid out for that, and they never followed through. They just, like, when this happened, they didn't contact anyone. Bill's had officers down there several times. And
Let me just tell you how chaotic it is when you have multiple groups at the elementary school. Roofers arguing with the plumbers, there's flooding, and then there's.
But they've taken over the street.
Engineering, yeah, it's,
Do they have a way to do that?
No. Well, they had a whole plan laid out. Everything was approved of what they were supposed to do. There's supposed to be a whole one-way tour set up.
There's no way to teach them because they got the whole lane blocked up with the
They're
barrier.
gonna have blocked off for a period of time, a day or so, but they never followed through what days that was gonna be.
do you have a point person? Because I know someone.
Well, I think
Yeah,
before they
day
had to
is
keep it open because of school. And
Yeah,
then when they realized they didn't have to, it all fell apart. The school didn't maintain what they needed to. There's supposed to be engineers there and a manager on site.
yeah, I talked to him regarding the data. He might be the person who, I can talk to him tomorrow about.
Yeah, they never, I called Bill several times and I said, and they're not friendly, this Ludlow.
Who should we have them talk to? Who should we?
Don't you work here?
That's what I was there, and say that the school's not following, they need to get somebody there to follow through.
They're not
There should be
following through.
detour signs, there should be, the whole thing should have been painted like they initially said, and they're just going.
There was no signage up in my building down there, so then they said, okay, we'll reopen the road, which they did, and now apparently they're doing it again.
They don't even have anybody flagging around that.
Well, there's no way to flag. They've got one lane
They should
blocked
have
up
somebody
with
to stop
the
it.
barriers, they got the machine in the other, there's nowhere to go.
So I go by and show thing. It's like really nice.
You can
I
walk
can just
by.
drive right next up to it. Like, hey, you want to get in? It's right there.
All right.
That's bad. I need to bring up something else in connection with that. The library has informed us that their roofing contractor got delayed due to the weather, so they're planning on starting their roofing project the last week of June, which means it's going to run through July. And they're asking for 3 spaces for the contractor's work trailer and 2 spaces for a dumpster. And I'm looking at this right here, and it looks to me like that'll cover the front of Merrill Thomas, the library, and Ann O'Leary Paintings.
Could that be?
That's one, that's
Maybe
5
put off
parking
until
places
September?
lost from the street.
Can that be put off till September?
Well, that's what I was gonna, Peter Lynch spoke to me, and I told him we would look at it again. This has been going on since, had they done it when they first talked to us, we wouldn't even care about charging them for the space, but now we're talking about prime season.
I'm not sure they could. I think that wasn't considered, that was that thing where you only have one person working on.
Yeah.
I don't think they could do it.
Yeah, you're probably right. In any event, and it's a standing seam metal roof, so it's not like, I mean, there's going to be metal sidewalk issues with pedestrians. I don't know how you all feel, but I almost think we should ask the library to try to defer that until September or October.
That'd be my bet.
I will try that with Peter. He probably won't be happy, but frankly, there's just so much the street can absorb. I mean, even now, we had Aljo doing the Ben and Jerry's building, and he just pulled up one day and put a hoist up on the sidewalk. But, you know, he came down and he did pay for some spots, and you know, frankly, he cleaned up the front of his 2 buildings so that it could. You know, now we've got the building that the little jewelry store is, it used to be Shade's Jewelry Store. Same thing is going on there. And again, there's no consideration being given to the pedestrian on the sidewalk. So I think we've got to be really strict about that. If they're going to do it, it's got to be done so that pedestrians are taken care of. Admittedly, up until now, we haven't had pedestrians, but we're getting busier.
And one last thing for Ed before he goes, in another meeting I was in this morning, they're talking about trying to get an Ironman grant, redo the fencing, your bog issue. I guess, have they talked to you about?
Mirror Lake Watershed is trying to get that. They've asked us to support it, and I told them we would endorse it.
And do in kind help with some of the excavating for that. And then the other thing they want, Bill Billerman jumped in on that, wanted to try to add to that grant, paying for the kiosk. And part of the matching of that is could we help them dig some holes for the kiosk? That's not a big deal.
Okay.
And who knows if there'll be an Ironman grant this year? I don't know if there's an Ironman.
Well, we don't know that, but I suggested that they run it through the Watershed Association because we got a grant from Ironman 2 years ago for furnishings for the beach house. We haven't been able to use it yet. They may remember that.
And how about you mentioned Main Street Reimagined, getting a village permit? Is the permit going to come from the village, and are we the ones that are going to enforce?
Shops will have to have a permit. They'll have to actually apply, and that's something I'll work with the core group on, is to find out who actually is going to do it, because that may affect what Bill has designed here for what we think is happening.
Would that be more the code enforcement office, or do you think it'll be actually the village?
We're not going to charge for them. We're doing it for insurance liability reasons.
I think they have to get a rider.
They gotta get a rider in the village, so I'll probably have a do it.
They have to.
I'll talk to
And that document.
Maybe we should go through, that way we have a copy of the insurance.
Maybe parking spaces. He redesigned something and came up with that many parking. It's looking at it right now. Thanks. I can now sleep. Right now, it's getting out. In school now.
That seems to be the conversation. That's that.
But in the same, how's your son?
Two. Yeah. This one was- No, we were, he's huge into like machines, even like push movies to them. That's why some back doors and front loaders. So part of the, when I just got out, I just drive them down School Street, and it's like, hey, look,
It looks like.
machine in the middle of the road. Look at this. We drive up there, there's another one.
Like he wanted.
Okay, good. Are you?
Kind of saves that.
This is the informal part of it. Oh, yeah, all right.
Much a little less parking.
Hey, guys, before you get out of here, on the budget, because we normally devote time to budget work sessions, but given the gathering issues and that, what I think Mindy and I will do is, if each one of you individually wants to come in and sit down with us, we will do it that way. And
Yeah,
I don't think there's gonna be a lot of tweaking, but if we can bring the tax rate at $77,000, if we can find it, maybe we can keep the tax rate.
No, I got
I do want to keep the 2% because if we give it up this year, it's gone forever.
He can make it fit in there. He liked it.
So we're just looking to sometimes.
This is just a survey.
Because.
Essentially.
Essentially, and that would allow us to say the tax rate is stay flat.
Okay. I understand it,
Okay. Yeah, this is that.
Let's do it right now.
Like elevation, everything of that stuff. That's got all the elevation.
Have a good evening.
Mr. Leon?
Full morning, 14 foot. We have a theory.
Hey, you appreciate this. Craig was telling the police department about it.
We're hoping to book something.
So, is it a rocket book?
A what?
A rocket book?
Yes.
So it's a small little notebook, but at the end, I already did this page. There's an app on your phone and you hover over what you've written. And it snaps a photo of it and it sends it to your email and you can designate email boxes. So like this is all admin meetings, that'll go in my admin file.
That's awesome.
If I'm doing budget, it'll go in my budget file.
So
Yeah, you can distinguish it. So the people that I work with at Tyler Technology for our accounting software.
Yeah.
Constantly talking about rocketbooks and I'm like, well, I'm gonna try it. So I bought myself.
Yeah.
Coolest thing ever.
That is.
Coolest thing ever.
That is-
Because I have notebooks
Chuck and-
everywhere.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Like I got a meeting
Feels
trying
bad
to.
after notes, and I'm looking at this.
Well, even for like the officers, just throw them in the car, gotta take notes on the suspect or whatever. Take a scan of it, send it off, and then all you do is tell them, wake up.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that's gonna be very expensive if you're like $20 and you're running out of 4 pages.
So
still be
these pens are reusable, so if you screw up, you can erase it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's made a question to tell, like,
That would be like. very
they made
cool.
a executive.
I don't want like 2/3 doodles and then.
I do think,
Until the illegible.
But I have a whole filing cabinet upstairs full of notebooks because I take somebody else.
Like you.
And then you gotta search through all the notebooks, try and find your notes this way, because somebody else has to do.
This is my Jenny, when she's an amazing. I have so much difficulty. I either have to be engaged with the presenter to soak it all in, because the minute I take notes, I'm like, I know what's going on, and then, but then 2 hours later. I'm like, what did that person say? I'm like, that is awesome. Yeah, that's-
They didn't even want to. do it.
Started
Each year. I started picking up at least a little.
Another week, Friday.
We've never seen polls like
Friday's closed in the restaurant.
Yeah, if they let us.
Oh, yeah, we're still recording. Here's the mouse right here. I don't know how you.
International.
You do that.
We should be open.